Welcome once again, friends, to Victor Escalante Live. What a show we have today, Jose.
Yeah.
3 in a row. I think today's show is going to be in the Hall of Fame.
Yes. Obviously, both of us and millions of people in Houston have been affected by the recent disaster that was generated by Hurricane Beryl. But the issue here is the response, right?
Yes.
And the fact that a lot of people lost power, and for many thousands of them didn't recover power maybe until yesterday.
Yeah, so
So
friends, our discussion today centers around the PR disaster behind the disaster of the recent hurricane in Houston. And let's go no further than Michelle, our team member, is without power still.
yes, exactly. I mean, I actually tried to get in touch with her today, and I believe she doesn't have power.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
So
uh, so what a nightmare. This is a total disaster. And so, what we're doing, Jose and I, are looking at the elements of what has happened and what could have happened and what should happen. So, we come from a totally different perspective. Jose's expertise is in media, PR. And Jose, have you ever done any crisis communication?
not of this nature. Let's put it
I've
that
done
way.
two. Again,
Okay.
not at the same scope, but I've done
Yeah.
two crisis communications for two different nonprofits,
Hmm.
and yes, this is a colossal failure. And so we're going to look at all the elements. I come from media. If you don't know who I am, I've worked in all legacy media: Houston Chronicle, Business Journal, Televisa, Univision TV, Univision Radio, and I've worked on both sides of the editorial as well as the advertising. And so I know something about how the game is played when it
Yes.
comes to communications and public relations. So, Jose, why don't you go ahead and get us started? Where do you want to
Sure.
start?
Well, I mean, obviously we both don't work at CenterPoint, right? So
Yes.
we can only make an assessment based on our experience as homeowners and residents of the Houston area that had been affected by the hurricane, and also by sharing our experience on things like this. So I guess in from my angle is understanding or trying to get an idea of what went wrong here. A big communications failure, and obviously we're going to be analyzing this from the communications perspective, right? There is an operations problem going on at CenterPoint, and I know because I have a very old tree in my house, and it was there when I got home, and I called CenterPoint last year twice to please trim the tree because it was touching the
Yes.
main lines. And I mean, they basically said they're not going to do it. I mean, the
Yeah,
guy that
and
came.
listeners, the reason that this is so important is the reason that we had so much outage was when utility lines hit each other, they
Mhm.
spark, and what happens is they blow out transformers. Okay,
Yeah.
I survived and stayed in Houston during Ike, and I could literally see down the block, Jose, the transformers
Mhm.
just blowing up as the
Yeah.
lines were hitting each other.
Yeah.
And one report, according to this problem, said that CenterPoint had cut corners or they had very little budget for trimming trees that are in the path of power lines.
Yeah.
So we're talking about a company that is more than 100 years old. This is not their first storm. This is not their first hurricane.
Definitely. Yeah.
So you would think that they know how to prepare in advance and how to maintain the system so that you don't have such colossal breakdown during a category 1 hurricane. Okay.
Yeah. And I'm speaking from from the point of view of one homeowner, right? But if I stand on the fence where the tree is, and if I look both ways, I can see dozens of homes that have the
Yes.
same issue just in my neighborhood.
Yes.
So obviously they fail really bad. I still have the problem in the backyard in my house. I don't know when that's going to be taken care of, but you can
Well,
call
hopefully, if
anyone.
CenterPoint is watching this, they
I
will
hope
immediately
so,
send
man.
the crews.
Yeah, because you can hire somebody your own, but they won't touch that. Anything that is
Yes.
touching the main lines, they won't do it.
Yes. That's right.
And they
Now,
cannot do it. Yeah.
so so again, I'm a total media politics nerd, and I follow Jeremy Wallace from the Houston Chronicle and his reporting. And there was a breakdown also between the lieutenant governor that was substituting Governor Abbott in not
Hmm.
requesting assistance and a declaration of disaster from the president in advance. That's just the way the system works. Now, so what does having a disaster declaration do? It opens up the purses of government to take care of a crisis. And you would think, Jose, that
Hmm.
if we have been declared um, a disaster zone, that you
Hmm.
would have extra funds allocated for maintenance. And again, this is not the first time that we go through this.
Right.
During Ike, I personally went without power for 2 weeks, Jose. Now,
Phew. Oh man.
those were very different times.
Hmm.
You did not have the connectivity through social media and all of the infrastructure that we currently have, to where anyone with a smartphone now has the
Right.
power to create a crisis communication. As we
Yeah.
saw with that one photo of the CenterPoint executive being in an air-conditioned building, making some sort of comment that
Oh
went
man.
down.
Yeah. That is the picture or the post that went viral.
Yes,
Definitely. Yeah. Completely out of touch with what was going on throughout the city. But you bring a big, very good point about people having phones and sharing
yes.
what's going on in their homes, in their neighborhoods. Yeah, it was a different game. But the reality, I think, and this is obviously my perspective, is let's focus on the communication side of CenterPoint. uh, I think I want to say that they knew there was a problem, right? And then all of a sudden you have this big hurricane coming into the area. And by the way, we, like, maybe 3 days prior, we didn't know exactly if this was going to hit Mexico, South Texas, but then all suddenly it went up north, and then it
Yeah.
made it through Houston, which
Within a couple of days, we knew we were going to take a direct hit.
exactly. So, but to me, that sounds like, okay, if I'm the communications person at CenterPoint, and I know that there are issues in the system throughout the city, I can see a big wave of problems coming my way. And the fact that maybe, obviously, for a company of this size, they have to have a crisis management plan in place. But I mean, the
And
crisis
if
was
I
so
had
big.
anything to say, I would set up a crisis communication center to be able to regularly update the community and use the connections of legacy media and social media to get out your messaging in a timely fashion that is accurate. Don't be reporting stuff that is inaccurate, because that was a big complaint, was it? That
Yeah,
supposedly their online platform that showed the outages was inaccurate. There was a breakdown in
inaccurate.
technology with that.
I know because I use it,
Yeah.
and even that phone system that you were supposed to get alerts.
Yes.
I mean, no, and the website. I mean, the website itself. It feels so old and so out
Yes.
of dated technology. Uh, they are almost sharing like PDF files
Wow.
of where.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. So I
Look
mean,
at how Whataburger was more efficient
yeah,
in
and that's
reporting
why.
the locations that had power or didn't have power to update Houston on
Exactly. Yeah.
on the zones that were down.
using other companies, apps to
Yes.
check where power is back. I mean, this. I guess the point here is that yes, you can have a crisis management plan in place, but I think this overwhelmed them very quickly, and a lot of things obviously fail. And I don't. I think that the response was really bad, and I honestly feel sorry for whoever is managing that department, but it went beyond the capacity of whatever they had in place. Now, again, not necessarily the communications teams takes the heat on this, but the problem obviously is somewhere else. On the operations side of CenterPoint, I think. At least that's the way
Sure.
that I see it.
In
Yeah.
preparation for this interview, I did some research on who is the head of communications at CenterPoint.
Hmm.
And there is a highly, highly competent executive that comes from the industry of public utilities. And I'm sure, again, highly seasoned, highly experienced to know how to get the message out, how to get the communications
Right.
out. Now, Jose, talk to us about how, because this is your area of expertise as a PR consultant and a story engineer for a lot of nonprofits. What do you do in establishing those relationships with legacy media so that you can get the story out? If legacy media wants to know something or quote you on a story, how does that work?
Yeah, well, you have to have the structure for doing so, right? I mean, this is not the job of one person, and having that team set up in place and being trained to respond to this kind of crisis is definitely fundamental. Otherwise, you can be Wonder Woman or Superman, but you're not going to get that far in the process. So. Prior to the hurricane hitting Houston, you almost have to be talking to the news media already.
Yes.
You don't wait until to get hit uh, to start engaging the news media. No, I mean this needs to happen way before.
And that's
So
why you invite the media to a press conference to do an advance notice of what is in place and
yeah,
what homeowners need to do if X or Y should happen. So that again, it's like you have your pulse on the community and you now have a communication loop that you're looping in the media that is going to be your bridge to the community
right.
so that people at least know that you're on top of things.
Yeah, I mean, you're such a big company, and the job that you do is so important for the
You have
city.
an entire team. You have a large team, I'm sure, that needs to be fanned out across Houston, and maybe even do some of their own reporting, especially when it comes to getting out the facts, the information.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I will think and I hope that they within their crisis management response, they have a way to engage the news media, not by phone call, but maybe setting up a meeting with them, inviting
Yes.
them to the office, and plan with them how they are going to respond in regards to the crisis that it's coming our way. So I mean, that to me is almost like a very, very fundamental step to take. And but that is engaging the legacy media, right? Another thing is, how do you create those buffers so your brand doesn't get that hit multiple times during the crisis? And let me give you one example of what I'm talking about here. Uh, I saw a video of a guy on a tower, and I don't know if you saw this, but the guy was working on getting some cables set up that have gone loose on that tower, and the guy, I guess, being like maybe 100 feet above, and he grabs the phone and starts explaining what's going on that tower, right? He starts doing this video. I thought that was, oh my God, if they only had a team of people that are
Yes.
basically communicating with the local communities that way, hey, this is what's going on in your area, and this is what we are doing
Yes.
to fix the problem. That generates a buffer for the community to cool down. I
Yes.
and don't and avoid the fact that many of them will use your brand and your CEO as the piñata of the day.
Yes.
You want to avoid that. So by generating those buffers, I think it's obviously going to help. I think.
You need to have some sort of buffer mechanism in place to cool the temperature down.
Yeah.
No pun intended.
Yeah.
Uh,
But here's another thing. I mean, they kept saying, and I heard this on the news media. Don't talk to the technicians
yes.
that are driving around the neighborhood. People are anxious to know
Yeah.
what's going on. They cannot get answers on the website. They cannot get answers by somebody responding or picking up the phone on their end. As soon as they see a truck, it's like
Human
popsicles being
nature.
distributed.
Human nature.
Yes, and
When
they
when
people run to them.
yeah,
So
when society breaks down, that's when people get desperate and they go into survival mode
right,
because literally lives were at stake.
yes,
One news report said that there's 22 deaths that have been reported, and we still don't have the complete number of deaths reported from trees falling on their house or their vehicles to flooding to to heat exposure with, especially with senior citizens that
yes,
cannot deal with the extreme heat.
yeah.
Uh, and,
In,
yeah,
in fact, in my neighborhood, I saw this very old woman, maybe in her 80s. Maybe she's living by herself,
yeah,
and just standing on the door watching the truck, the technicians work on the back of her house. But I mean, just seeing that image of
yeah.
this very old, white old lady, and I mean, it touched me. I mean, man, guys, fix this right away. I
Let's
mean,
go the other extreme, Jose. There were reports of people actually taking guns
yes, yeah,
and taking matters into their own hands and threatening technicians to get their power first.
yes,
What kind
yes.
of
So
society do we live in when again there's no civility
no
and
civility.
people resort to primal fear tactics and aggression that we haven't seen in years past.
Absolutely, and obviously that is not acceptable, right? But the fact that you did such a bad job that people are willing to take that path is a reflection of the big problem that you have to fix.
Yes,
And then the question becomes, how do you fix this at this point, right?
give us the secret sauce, Jose.
Well,
if you had if you had the power to fix this disaster, what would you do or what would you have done?
yeah. Besides the legal issues,
Yeah, besides, let's put
all
legality
the
aside.
operations and everything that needs to be fixed, and somebody else is taking care of that, right? And hopefully it will be taken care of, because otherwise it's gonna impact the
Yes.
brand again. So,
Well,
uh,
but let's go there, Jose. There is a legal component to what you say publicly because that will be held against you in depositions if there's a lawsuit, as Tony Busby has now filed a class action lawsuit in behalf of restaurants that lost millions of dollars. Okay.
yeah.
So, how do you handle the legality component when it comes to putting out the public information?
I guess this is a conversation that communications needs to have with their legal team and set up a standard. I mean, I will assume that at this point they already have that as a part of their crisis
They do.
management
And
plan.
now that's guaranteed that no more information coming out of CenterPoint unless it is vetted through their legal department.
And but the problem is, getting to this point, right? And but how do you fix it? Once where we are now, how the heck do you fix this moving forward? Because this is not going to be the last crisis that we are
Yeah.
going to have. Yeah.
We're
So
just starting the hurricane season. So what's going to happen when we take a direct hit with a category 3 or 4 hurricane?
oh my God, that's going to be a complete disaster. But the thing is that we just had derecho, hitting Houston,
Yes.
which was a disaster by itself.
Yes.
And then, like a month and something later, we get hit with this, and this is July. I mean, we still have like 3 or 4 months to go.
Yes.
So I mean, the anxiety among people is there, I think, and as soon as you see the sky getting dark, it's bad. But look, I mean, I like right now, I will be listening or trying to understand what has been said so far, in making sure that that I'm putting together a lot of data, a lot of the things that have been shared on social media, and technology allows you to do that. I mean, you can actually collect all that information. So, I mean, to me, social media will be one source. Uh, uh, we already know what the sentiment is, right?
Yes.
But
And look at how AI is already simplifying information gathering to have it in your fingertips
yeah,
within seconds. Okay, within seconds you can have all the facts that
right.
are reported out there, so that you can make accurate information available to the community. Now, let's bring it down to earth, Jose.
Uh-huh.
Most listeners that are watching this are not multi-billion-dollar companies
Right.
that are going to find themselves in a communications disaster.
Mm-hmm.
What can people learn if they're a small company? Because I was thinking about that before we went on the air today.
Mm-hmm.
I have several clients that whenever they have crises and they have to close down, I always encourage them to over communicate with their customers, because
Mm-hmm.
in today's day and age, Jose, you mess up one time and you could lose that customer for life.
Yeah, well, like a one customer situation, right?
Yeah.
But this is obviously way more than that. But whatever that customer in the example that you share says, chances are that he will share it on a Google review, or maybe he's just gonna
Yes.
do a social media post.
Yes.
Uh, where I was going with this is that you mentioned about over communicating. My approach will be to listen and listen very quickly. And in the case of the example that you provided, I will reach out to that customer and try to understand what the problem is. And I think that is the stage that communications right now at CenterPoint should be, listening to what has happened, what the comments are from people. And that can be, again, your social media, the emails, the multiple emails that they have must receive by now from customers throughout the city. The phone calls, they have to have a phone system set up that allows you to record those conversations and get some data on the phone calls. And then just try to get a very good idea of what is being said, and because that can set the tone or can set the strategy of what that next research component needs to be. For example, do you have to tour the communities and do like a listening meetings with them? I think you have to.
I would. I would
Yeah.
to relieve some of the pressure and to explain in some sort of way that maybe some of the systems that were needed were not in place,
Yeah.
for whatever
Yeah.
reason,
Yeah.
because one study or one story reported that CenterPoint has installed approximately 2 million smart meters that
Hmm.
communicate directly with CenterPoint through wireless communication
Hmm.
to update the system, the grid.
Hmm.
So again, the technology is in place, but there was something that was missing to have a massive breakdown. And if
Yeah.
people understood not so much as what went wrong, but what are they doing to correct it in the future,
Right.
that should alleviate some of the crises that we went through. One of the things that I noticed, Jose, in some of the reporting before we finish today, is there was no clear communication to workers that were sitting in parking lots because they lacked the work orders to be able to go out and to fix the regions that they would be assigned to. Massive
Wow.
breakdown in the communication with a lot of workers sitting in place. And again, social media reported this and showed pictures of workers just standing around because, again, they had no clear orders on where to go and what to do.
Well, and just to give you an example, in my neighborhood, I saw the trucks coming in early in the morning, and I don't know if this is the way they operate or what, but I mean, it was like 7 trucks. They parked and they waited like 2 hours.
Wow.
Um, until you start until I started seeing movement, right? Like they got on a smaller vehicle and then went around the neighborhood, I guess, to scout the area and to see where the specific problems were. I guess that's what they were doing. But it took them maybe until 1 p.m. to start doing the work in the community. So, I mean, got here maybe around 7:30, 8 a.m. And then they
4 hours
started
later, 4 or 5 hours
for
later
hours.
before the work actually started.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, exactly. But look, I mean, understanding how to fix the problem requires listening. And like I said, I mean, going into the communities, start scheduling those meetings as of now, and then have a strategy on how you're going to manage those meetings, right? Because they're going to take some heat from people, but you have to listen to that. You can't avoid that. Even today, I checked the CenterPoint website, and it took me maybe like 4 or 5 clicks to get to the information related to Houston, because they are providing this
Yeah.
service
Right.
in other states. So the fact that me here, for example, if I didn't have any power but I have my phone, and it's gonna take me a few clicks just those little things matter, you know. I mean, why
Especially
don't
on a smartphone, Jose, where the data is not going to load fast enough.
yeah.
It's like it doesn't take much. You and I know to put a button
Mhm.
on your main page just for Houston. That one click and you're in where you need to be.
And if you have a crisis management plan in place, you know that you have a situation in Houston, you change your homepage,
Yes.
to make it even more
Yeah.
accessible to
That's a
people.
that's a very good strategy. You redirect to a designated web page that is specifically designed to
Yeah,
handle a disaster.
yeah. So,
You made me think of a story that under Bill White, they prepared in advance for Ike,
uh-huh.
and they had a designated number, Jose,
Hmm.
that people could call.
Yeah.
And Mayor White asked the one of the people in the meeting to check to see if the phone worked. It didn't work. Okay,
Oh boy.
so right away they created a behind the scenes redirecting. They created a strategy basically to have a viable system that did work for communications.
Mhm.
So
Well,
something as simple as that is like, does the system work? Have you tried it?
yeah, and some of these things we already know that they need to happen, right?
Yeah,
But not until you talk to the people in the communities, you're gonna realize, oh, okay, I needed to do this other thing, or I need to fix this thing that I have in my site. Yeah, like in my case, the first 2 days, my signal was very, very weak.
yeah,
So I mean, I did, but I had a signal. But to load a page, it requires some time.
yes,
It looked to me like maybe the power that was closer to my home didn't have energy, and maybe I was getting the signal from another tower that was somewhere else, and so the signal was weak. But I they definitely need to go into that listening mode right now, and I think that the governor Abbott have given them like until the end of this month or something like that.
yes. It's
Uh,
the end of the month. The story that was reported the end of the month to come up with an explanation, because there is going to be some investigation, and there's going to
right.
be some dictates coming down from the
Right.
governor on what will be done.
Yeah. So that is that is probably beyond communications, but
Yes,
communications, I'm assuming communications is like a component of that plan that they need to have in place. I will say that, listening and getting this problem fixed from the communications point of view, it's gonna take them maybe 6 months or 8 months to get something going, because just going around the communities and gathering all that information and putting together a plan and start executing that plan, it's going to require some time. But I don't think that we are not going to, if they commit to fixing this communications problem, I don't think that we're going to see this year. We're going to probably see it until beginning of next year, because it's if they want to do it right, it's going to take some time, I
yeah,
think.
because something as colossal as this requires lots and lots of time
Yeah,
to come up with the strategy that's going to be executed. And
and
I'm
if
sure
another
we're going to
thing.
find a lot of things in discovery, Jose, from the class action lawsuit.
Ooh, yeah, I know a lot of things are going to come out, but look, as of right now, I think the urgency is to obviously start generating those buffers that can help them, alleviate some of the damage that has been done to the brand, and they need to be seen as good community partners. So I can see them doing a lot of outreach right now, while they take care of all the other stuff that is behind the doors, right?
Get out your
So
crystal ball. Do you think they're going to rebrand, change the name?
no, I don't know. I doubt it, but it is a possibility. I mean, the problem is so focalized in Houston, but Houston is a big city.
Yes.
Maybe I will put a maybe to that.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah,
Well, we're going to find out in coming weeks a lot more things that we don't know.
yes,
Any final
yeah.
words, Jose?
I feel the pain that everyone throughout the city has gone through with this crisis, and I just wish that everyone has power by now or by the end of the day today. And look, we have storms coming in, unfortunately.
Let's pray. Let's pray that that happens.
Yeah.
Friends, we're gonna have to leave it there. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to next week. I think this is going to go into the Hall of Fame, Jose. What do you think?
Maybe it's definitely a case study. Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll see you next week. Go out and have a great week, my friends.
Thank you.